Hey guys, welcome to today's episode of the Owl Empire podcast. Today, I had the pleasure of sitting down with my man, Matthew Santoro. A YouTube personality with over 1 billion views, he is most popular for his 50 amazing fact videos on YouTube. Today, we talked about the importance of mental health, the kind of effects it had on him, and how he overcame his biggest fears. So stay tuned, guys, because trust me, there's some valuable things delivered in this podcast. Remember to take some notes. You might learn a thing or two. Anyways, with that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I hope you guys enjoy. What's up, guys? I am here with my man, Matthew. Thank you so much for being on the show,
of course, brother.
Appreciate it. All right, so let's get right into it.
Let's do it.
All right, so this interview, by the way, guys, we actually just did a podcast with my man, so if you want to plug that in.
The Matthew Santoro podcast, available on all platforms.
Woo! Go check it out.
Yes.
So we were actually having a pretty deep in conversation, but this one, I want to go more in depth about you.
Okay.
As a person, as an individual. So why don't you tell me about Matthew before YouTube started? Take me back to the past, memory lane, you know?
Let's take it back.
Woo.
Shout out to iDubbbz. I grew up in Welland, Ontario, Canada. Really small town, 50,000 people. Man, my aunt's calling me and stuff. This is real life right now. I grew up in a small town, 50,000 people, Welland, Ontario, Canada. I grew up in my dad was pretty conservative. My mom was always goofy. That's probably why they're not together anymore.
Okay.
So my parents are divorced. And I went to school for accounting, which is not what I'm doing now. But my parents were always very supportive, and I lived with my mom, and they both just always encouraged me, go do really whatever you want to do. But I went into accounting because I figured that it would be the safe route. We're always told to go the safe route in life. And what I realized quickly is there is no safe route. And so anyway, I went to school for 5.5 years, got my Master of Accountancy degree.
You got a master's degree?
I have a master's degree, yeah.
And are you using any of it right now?
Little bit,
okay.
Little bit, yeah. I'm doing my own. I do my own taxes. I keep my own books.
Okay, so I guess you got something out of it, right?
Yeah. But I graduated, did public accounting for 2 years.
Okay.
And then I got laid off. And that's when everything changed for me. Because my whole life, like I said, I always thought there was a safe route. And I thought I was doing that with getting my Master of Accountancy degree and stuff like that.
Did you have like a plan for life? Like, did you have like, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to get married at this age and get kids this age?
Not so much that, but I figured I'd figure that part out. But I did have a sort of skeleton idea, infrastructure of kind of that idea. But like I said, I got laid off, and that's when my perception of everything changed. And the whole time I'd been doing YouTube just as my creative outlet, a couple times a week, just for fun.
So you were doing YouTube
during
while you were...
Yeah, like I would even write scripts while I was at work, which is really bad.
All right.
But I just didn't have a passion for what I was doing. And then I graduated, did it like public accounting. And then when I got laid off, I just decided I was going to go all in on YouTube.
So when did YouTube start? What year was this?
I started doing YouTube 2010.
2010, okay.
2010, and then I did it for 4 years with almost no payoff. And then after the 4th year, it popped. And then I went from 15,000 subscribers to 3.5 million.
In the 4th year?
In, 4th to 5th year, yeah.
So you did it for 4 years without getting...
Just for a passion.
Just because you loved it?
Yeah, same reason I do my podcast, is just for fun, And...
what got you started for YouTube? Like, I mean...
I used to watch, like, Ray William Johnson. I used to watch, Dan Brown, Pogo Bat. Actually, I wonder if I can list off all 7. There's 7 people that influenced me to start. Ray William Johnson, Dan Brown, Pogo Bat, Mr. Guitar Man, Wheezy Waiter, Mika Kitty, Julian Smith, and Philip DeFranco.
And we're talking about OG YouTubers over here.
Yeah, those are OG, and only a few of those are really still around doing their thing. But it was something these people were famous in their own right.
Yeah.
And I just decided to start doing it, and the rest.
What was your vision for it? Like everybody has a passion, right? But they always have an idea where...
Well, when I started doing it, I wanted to be famous.
Okay, so it was fame.
But I had no idea what that meant, and I was not prepared for it when it actually came. all of it comes all at once, and it was pretty intense. Like, you get all the money and what people consider fame, and then you lose. I lost a sense of who I was. Like, I was always Matt Santoro from Welland, Ontario, Canada, and then all of a sudden I had all this attention on me, and I was like, oh man, like, who am I? Like, who am I supposed to be?
You know what I'm saying? Supposed to be for yourself or for the people?
Both. Like, what does this mean for me?
Okay.
You know? And when it first happened, I got a huge ego, and I had someone come into my life that was really bad for me and exacerbated that ego and made me think I was a rock star. At one point, she even called us like the Kim and Kanye of YouTube. It was like ridiculous. Looking back, it's ridiculous. But at the time, I was just very impressionable. I'd gotten out.
And you came out about this, right? You spoke about this in one of your videos, didn't you?
Yeah, I've talked about all of this in the past. Yeah. In various levels and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm just, that was, I don't regret any of that because that happens to almost everybody. And now I know what it's like to sort of be in that area, and it made me feel yucky, which isn't exactly the most like academic term, but yucky. Yeah. And now, so all that really sent me into like a really sad, sort of depressed place. And I was in that place for like 3 years, and it took me a long time, but I'm happy to say now I'm finally in like a really good place, and I'm really in a chill place. And even when you first walked in here, you were like, your energy's
your
like chill.
Vibe is
and I was
relaxed.
like, yes, thanks, man. Like, I've worked really hard at that. Meditation was a big part of it, eating right, exercising. It basically comes down to feeding the mind and body.
100%. And so, it's funny you talk about being depressed because a lot of people think fame is all great. Mm-hmm. So how did you react, and how did it feel to, like, actually, let's take it back a moment. You do like amazing facts on YouTube. That's what got you popping, right?
Yeah.
Like, why that? Like, why did you go through that? And like, did you ever expect yourself to actually become popular due to just something like this?
So I was manifesting back before I even knew what manifesting was. I worked at it and believed it was going to happen one day, and I remember I would picture myself on stage.
Doing
like,
what?
Just on stage in front of people, entertaining people. Like, I would visualize it, feel the excitement of that. And I didn't even know what manifestation was, but I was doing that. And here I am 8 years later, and I'm literally going to London tomorrow to literally be on stage
with people,
in front of people, which is not the first time, but you get the idea.
It's happened.
Yeah, it's happened multiple times, and it's such a blessing. And I'm not afraid to talk about the fact that back in the day, like, I was lacking a lot of gratitude. I did have an ego that didn't last long, but the ego part, I like to talk about that, and the fact that even up until recently, man, like, I lacked a lot of gratitude in my life, and that really, all of the things I'm talking about right now, lack of gratitude, scarcity mindset, fear mindset, all of that contributed heavily to my depression. And now that I live in an abundance mindset, I live in a love mindset, I live in a gratitude mindset, absolutely changed my life in ways that it really, unless you live it, it's hard to fully explain.
And do you think that because of you experiencing the fame and everything, it allowed you to become who you are today, or?
1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%. And how open have you been with the audience about the stuff we talked about on my podcast?
Oh, pretty open. I don't mind. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked about you OD'd once.
Yeah.
And we talked about that on my podcast, and we went pretty in depth. By the way, and I don't want to keep plugging my podcast, but we had a really awesome.
It was a good.
That was a deep. We talked about everything. But anyway,
I would love check it out for sure.
For real. But I would love to talk about anything you want to talk about. We can talk about that again on this if you want. But anyway. But
I'd like to continue the conversation because it was pretty cool.
Yeah, but I mean, regarding that, we talked about how that made you who you are today. Mm-hmm. Somebody that is way stronger, someone that's disciplined, someone that has, given yourself fully to God, and you want to make the world a better place. And you may not be that person had you not gone through that experience. So,
and you did bring up how I said the word regret. And you're like, mentally, you should change that and perceive it as
changing your language
good
is
thing.
Huge, dude. You actually said, that's the one thing I regret. And I let you talk, and I said, but I want to submit to you to change your language to say I'm grateful for that. Like, I was once in a relationship that was so bad for me. Like, I talked about, I dated this girl and it was really bad, and it sent me into a deep depression, and it was a very public relationship and it was ugly. But there was once a time where I said, like, man, I regret that. Like, it really screwed up everything in my life. Mm-hmm. But now I'm actually really grateful that it happened. Like, truly grateful. And that sounds really twisted to say I'm grateful for something that happened that most would perceive as really bad. But in the same way that a death in the family is perceived as bad, or an OD is perceived as bad, or someone in political power some would consider as bad. Mm-hmm. There are others that look at it and say that death is going to bring the family closer together. That OD is going to make me a stronger person. That person that's in political power right now is going to unite a country who is going to see potentially all the hate, and we will arise stronger from this as a nation.
Yeah, and it's funny because like I'm open about the fact that I OD'd to everybody. It's not because it's actually kind of scary to talk about. Like, even when you talk about it right now, I get this like anxiety and I start to feel funky.
But that's natural, by the way.
Yeah.
And you're allowed to feel that way. I just want to like, you know, I'm not trying to, but when you feel the things you feel, meditation and mindfulness has taught me that there are things you're never going to not be able to feel. Yeah. Like we talked about the 5-second rule. Mm-hmm. If you go to, so the 5-second rule is a rule that says you should, if you want to do something, follow that instinct and just do it within 5 seconds. Count down 5 seconds and do it. Because if you wait more longer than 5 seconds, the fear part of your brain will take over and say, no, don't go talk to that girl. You're not good enough looking. She's a 10. She'll never talk to you. So, wow, I totally just lost. I get really excited. What were you saying?
I was talking about the, first before I said, God, totally lost track.
I know. You know what? It's because we were having we're using just like deep parts of our brain from like the last conversation.
Like,
this one,
deep into
it's like our brain, like, plus we just had Chipotle. So like now we're like.
Nice, relaxed, kick back, sitting on a couch.
They'll be able to rewind that and be like, I know where you were going with that. But anyway.
we were talking about my OD and how like I was feeling certain things.
Yeah.
And then you went into your 5
feelings. Yeah. So thanks for bringing that back. Yeah. So feelings, and you're allowed to feel what you feel, like anxiety, and that's what the 5-second rule says, is that you can feel anxiety and you can feel these things, but you don't let your emotions run yourself. Emotions are simply they're simply signs, or they're simply signals towards what you want.
And how you perceive it.
Well, for example, anxiety and feeling nervous about something, physiologically, scientifically, when you feel anxiety and nervous about something, it is the exact same physiological event as excitement. Mm-hmm. The body doesn't know the difference between being excited and fearful and anxious. So when you're going to go on stage, a lot of people say, oh my God, I'm so scared to go on stage. But if you simply reframe that, there's a technique in psychology called reframing. If you reframe that and say, I'm excited to go on stage, your body doesn't know the difference. It just feels what it feels. And it's like, oh, okay, he's telling me I'm excited. So you're not going to not feel the adrenaline pumping. All you're doing is reframing it from scared to excited. So when you say, you know, I feel anxious talking about it, another way to look at it is I feel something bubbling up, but it's actually excitement that I have made it to where I'm at. You know, and you can look at it as fear, or you can look at it as, look at how far I've come.
It's how your perception is.
Yeah, and you remember those times, but it doesn't have to be a negative thing.
You know, I'll to add on to that, I was telling you, I like to talk about it for one reason. I do believe that my biggest push to what got me out of what I went through was accepting who I am.
100%.
And I don't know if you can agree with me on that, but
1,000%.
Yeah. So the reason why I'm open about it is because I want people to know. I want people to know because I want to inspire people with it, to know that, listen, I was at the lowest of the low and I'm building. I still don't believe I'm anywhere close to where I want to be, and I try to stay as humble as possible, knowing that I'm just doing things step by step. But me accepting who I am kind of pushes me to become stronger and do things and push me out of the comfort zone. While we were eating, you were talking about how the way you learn is by putting yourself out your comfort zone, and this is just my technique to doing that.
Well, you said acceptance, and that's a really important word that I think more people need to learn, because first and foremost, by accepting your past and giving it a name and speaking about it, you're taking all the power away from it. You know, like if you look at anyone that's ever had anything like controversial happen to them, like in the news or whatever, as soon as they talk about it, people shut up, because what are you going to say to them? What are you going to say? Like, yeah, I did that. Okay. Yeah. Like, what are you going to say? Like, as soon as you start trying to hide stuff, it's called the Barbra Streisand effect. Yeah. It's when you try to suppress things, it makes people want to talk about it more. But if you're open about it, you're just like, yeah, I screwed up. It's like, okay, end of conversation. Like, what are you gonna?
It's funny because I have a friend of mine that does that, but with jokes. Like, if you joke with him and you tell him and you like try to like, you know, when you're close with someone, you kind of like sometimes say things that are just a little bit messed up. He comes at you with something even more messed up, because then you sit there and you're like, oh, I really don't know how to respond to that. Yeah. Yeah. So it's the same tactic. You know, speaking of controversy, let's talk about that for a moment. On your YouTube, I think I heard about something about people telling that, you know, you get your facts from places that like, oh, this guy isn't really truthful, like he just Google searches and makes videos. How'd you deal with all the hate that came from YouTube?
Yeah. So what you're talking about is, I think it was, oh man, I think it was like 5 years ago now, so it was a really long time ago, but I was in a really like sad place. Like it was like I was right at the beginning stages of like when I was super depressed. Okay. Remember I was talking about all that?
Did this come right as your fame was hitting?
Yes. So I had already been in a depressed place because I left a 5-year relationship, and then all the fame and everything came, and it like exacerbated it tenfold. And long story short, I remember this one week I was super, super depressed, and I had to get a video out. And what I ended up doing was taking too much information from one article, which normally I take like from 4 or 5 articles or whatever, because it just makes for a better video. And this week I got mad lazy, and I was just like way too depressed, and I hadn't put a video out in like 2 weeks, and I was like, I gotta get something out. So I took too much information. A couple YouTubers ran with that, made a huge deal out of it, and I got so much hate about that online. And but I mean,
what's the story about? Like, just the fact that
no, it's just like I didn't cite my
enough work?
I didn't cite my sources, and I took too much from one article, and it was just and you know, looking back, I'm like, yeah, you know, I look at it as transformative. But I definitely didn't do the proper things, like I didn't cite my sources and stuff. So, but again, like all the tremendous amount of hate that I got from that, which was wicked overblown as far as I was concerned, but the tremendous amount of hate that I got, and by the way, we all get that at some point. Like, have you ever had anything like that happen to you?
Just recently, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't want to really talk too much about it because it's
sensitive,
kind of
right?
It's a private matter, but just recently, like something happened on. These guys, he'd know, but like
online.
Yeah. Just the people. It's a little story. I'll tell you off camera, but like something I recently went with some certain people I was dealing with. Decided to come on my profile and just like completely bash me. It was the first time. It's funny because I responded with complete positivity. I have one thing. I grew up. I was telling you in your podcast. I grew up being hated a lot, like bullied, hated and I remember up until I was, I think 17 or 18, I thought the whole world revolved around the people that hated me. Yeah. And it's funny because one day I woke up and then, what did I do? I think I went overseas or something, and then it hit me. I realized, like, dude, there's 7 billion people in this world. Yeah. Like, why am I so worried about my community? Yeah. And it's interesting because I realized, I always tell people that aren't feeling too great about their life, when they say like, oh, the whole world hates me, the whole world I'm like, what is your world? Define your world.
Awesome way to put it.
Because a lot of people define their world as their parents, their family members, their brothers, sisters, whatever it is, or their best friends. Yeah. And they all of a sudden their mind just like the whole world. It's because that's all you're used to. Yeah. But if you put yourself out of that boundary, you start to realize like, whoa, people actually respect me, people actually care for me.
Right.
But point is like, yeah, I just recently started like to, I never really deal with that. Thank God, because like I mean in the beginning, like I just started this kind of thing. Yeah. So a lot of people that do follow me and follow the podcast and stuff, they're very positive. I realize one thing: if you surround yourself with positive affirmations, positivity comes to you. And
dude, I listen to positive affirmations every morning.
Yeah, all the time.
Every single morning, I put on a YouTube video and I listen to, even if I don't say it out loud, I have it play in the background. And I just have this lady talking and she's like, I am powerful.
Do you talk to yourself a
lot? In the mornings with I am. Yeah.
I look in the mirror all the time and I'm like, I am this.
I don't like, not like it's not like a crazy person. It's like you are and it's not just the words either. Like, you have to
Feel it.
you have to really believe it. Like, I wake up and I literally make my coffee. We talked about drinking a gallon of water a day and how good that is for your body. And I drink, coffee and water in the morning on an empty stomach because I intermittent fast. And I listen to positive affirmations. And sometimes it's just Tony Robbins, which isn't really positive affirmations. But sometimes I wake up and I'll change it up. And like today, for example, I was like, you know what? I woke up really happy. I was very grateful for everything. I knew we were shooting my podcast and this podcast. I was super grateful for the opportunity. I was grateful that I'm leaving for London tomorrow. Just in the zone. You know, when you're in the zone? And I was like, I want to amplify that. So I turned on some positive affirmations. And I just listened to this really nice lady, and she's just like, I am powerful. I am love. I am love. I am wealthy. I'm prosperous. And sometimes I'll actually say it, and like I'll actually get emotional because I'll actually like, if you feel something that real, you're like almost touching the source energy, you know? And for me, today I didn't do that. All that I did was just heard it in the background. And as I drank my coffee, and answered some comments like on my YouTube videos, I was just listening to it in the background. And even if you don't say it, you're subconsciously
doing it.
You're hearing life is good, and over time.
Like, don't you drink coffee every day?
I do drink.
Yeah, I feel like motivation should be a daily substance, man.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
It should be a daily
substance.
substance.
That's a tweetable. You know how Oprah has tweetable moments when she does the whole Super Soul Sunday thing? That was a tweetable moment. She's like, tweet. Tweet, tweet.
Put it up. But I really seriously believe in that. Like, motivation should be a daily thing you do. Like 100%. A daily substance. Like, you go to the gym, you work out every day.
Yeah.
You do everything every day. Like, let's say if you wake up, like, you're sleepy, you drink coffee. So why isn't like motivation or affirmations a part of your life?
Too many people work on their body and they neglect their mind.
And because they think it's like not a big deal.
Because people don't look at their mind as a body part. But your mind is absolutely a body part.
Everything about your body. You can't even remove your body parts.
In fact, your brain and your head is the most important body part. Your brain specifically. And we don't look at it that way. And I think that's the biggest perception we need to change in society, is that your brain is the most important body part. So in the same way that you'd go to the gym and work out your biceps or work out your pecs, or ladies, maybe the legs or the glutes, it's like, for the brain, you should be meditating. You should be eating good foods that increase your brain power, taking fish oil every day. Like, you see the number of substances. That sounds really bad. Supplements. The number of
supplements, guys.
Healthy supplements. Right? Can I rattle them off? What I take?
Go over it.
This is everything I take. I'm looking at it right now. I take something called Alpha Brain. It's 2 capsules of. By the way, I don't even really know what's in these things.
Nootropics.
Yes. Man, that's what's up. Yeah. But like Joe Rogan got me on a lot.
I'm very big on those. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a lot of nootropics. By the way, this is all natural stuff. You can get it on Amazon. Alpha Brain. Fish oil pills. I take probiotics for my stomach. I take something called Genius mushrooms, which is like special mushrooms that are ground up.
Shrooms.
Not those kind of shrooms, but they're capsules that are like proven for your brain that are good. I take a multivitamin. I take vitamin B12 and D3 or something like that. Anyway, I take a bunch.
Yeah.
But
daily.
Daily, and I really, Joe Rogan got me on a lot of this stuff. I don't know if most people are familiar with Joe Rogan. He's got like the biggest podcast in the world, pretty much. But yeah, man, it's just, you got to treat your brain right. And if you're suffering from depression or anything like that, it's probably because you haven't been taking the steps to treat your brain right. And that's not to say it isn't genetic, because I actually have depression in my family, which is where mine came from. It was just triggered by certain events, but it was mostly because I didn't take care of myself. And specifically my brain. So I would highly recommend anyone out there, the way that I got over my depression, and believe me, I was in a dark place, was meditation. Exercise was a huge part of it. Being around people, forcing myself to get out of the house.
Positivity.
Therapy.
Yeah.
And to get myself out of that place, I started taking medication. Not antidepressants. It was actually just a mood stabilizer, which is more mild. But my emotions were all over the place, and that helped me sort of get back to baseline. And I don't need them anymore, but that's what I needed to just get out of it. And in terms of medication, I want to be clear about one thing. I think a lot of people avoid it. I was one of those people. It's not something to be scared of, but it's also not a fix-all. It's a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
But it's an important Band-Aid that gets people out of the funk, but don't rely on it as a fix-all. It is a tool, and you use that tool as a stepping stone to
I love that you say that.
Get to the next step.
I love that you say that. What would you recommend for people out there that are currently experiencing depression, and let's say the entire life, that's all they really understood? You know, a lot of people get lost in the emotion of either negative emotions or like overwhelming emotions because they haven't experienced the positive side of things, and they think that their whole life is just that, and so they accept that. And that's like the scariest thing is when you accept who you are. It's funny because we were just talking about acceptance, but some people accept themselves as the wrong version of who they. That's a really
good observation. I think acceptance is important, but not being overly passive.
Yeah.
There's a difference. You should be accepting of things when they are not in your control.
You should be accepting.
Let me think about that statement for a second.
So like death,
gas prices,
gas prices,
like things that really aren't in your control.
Yeah.
Things that are in your control.
Just run for president, change the gas prices.
Yeah. I mean, okay, there's an example. Like if you live in Spain or you live in any country in the world, not just the US, if you don't like who's in power, exercise your right to vote. That's something that is at least in part in your control.
Do something. Yeah.
Do something. Your mindset may not feel like it. You are 100% in control of it. Now, when people hear that, immediately their back gets up and a wall goes up because they're like, I wish I could control this, but I can't. Listen, you're talking to a guy that was in the deepest of depressions. And what I did was I took steps. It's not an overnight thing. It took me 3 years.
3 years?
3 years.
Wow.
Maybe 4. 3 to 4 years. And I'd say 4 years, actually, yeah. And I finally got to a place by taking tiny steps, the steps that I could control.
Yeah.
The little things.
So did you just like wake up one day and you were like, all right, I'm better?
No, of course not.
Oh,
no.
How did it happen? How did it like gradually
accepting I had a problem, accepting that I was depressed. Mm-hmm. That was the first thing. Much in the same way that like an alcoholic would say like I'm an alcoholic.
Yes.
Like it's hard, but you have to say like I have a problem. Once you do that, now you have a base. Because without that base of saying like, oh, like identifying it, you're just free falling. Mm-hmm. So I was able to identify the problem, and then from there, I just took steps, and I didn't know how to do it, but I got desperate, and I was like, I got to do whatever it takes at this point. And anyone out there that might be feeling sad or down or depressed or have even worse thoughts, just you know what you need to do. You know you need to do something, but you don't necessarily know what it is.
I love that.
So
I love that.
What I recommend is just try things. Mm-hmm. And it might not work immediately, but
give it a shot.
Try something. If it doesn't work, try something else. And what you're going to find over time is by trying things, each one of those steps will actually, you won't see it until the stairs are built. Each step is a brick, and you're laying those bricks, and you don't see the big picture until the stairs are built. And then you step up those stairs.
Something I talk to, I appreciate you saying that actually. Yeah. It's a great point. I talk to a lot of people, and the first thing they tell me is, I've tried everything. And then I instantly respond, I'm like, okay, tell me 3 things that you've tried today. Mm-hmm. And they look at you and they're like,
yeah. I've heard Tony Robbins say that 100 times. I don't know. He says that
Tony Robbins, yeah. He
says it all the time. He's
That's
like,
what I learned from it, actually.
Yeah. I noticed thing that actually. I talked to you. I talked to Josh. I talked to a lot of people, and we're all. I think there's a shift in consciousness happening. Yeah. Because we're all more and more people are getting into mindfulness, and they're listening to the gurus that are out there that really have figured it out. Uh-huh. And I love that you knew that too, because it's showing that more and more people aren't. It's not this exclusive brain club. It's like more and more people are figuring it out.
Mindset is everything, man.
Man, it's everything.
It's huge.
But yeah, like Tony Robbins says, like he'll ask people, like, why is your business failing? Oh, I tried everything. He's like, everything? Yeah. He's like, name a million. Well, okay, maybe 10,000 things. 10,000? Name 100. Yeah. Well, maybe 50. 50? Name 10. Okay, maybe I tried these 2 things over and over and they didn't work. Like that's pretty much verbatim.
There's a quote that says the definition of
insanity
is trying the same thing over and over again, accepting different results.
Expecting different results.
Yes. But the thing is about depression, it's not physical. So let's say, like, here's my phone, right? If I want it to be over there, I know it's easy for me to say, yeah, I'm just going to put it over there. But something about our emotions that we don't understand, it's not something we can, like, physically manifest or physically change. And so that's a tough part. So what would you recommend for somebody, like, what's your opinion on that, on how to actually physically get in control?
Yeah, the first thing you need to do is go see a professional. There's no shame in it. I've been seeing a therapist for years. More people than you know are seeing a therapist right now. Like, just so you know that. Like, it's not some weird thing. I think every person on the planet should be seeing a therapist, without exception. Because you don't have to have depression or anything to see a therapist. All that it means is that you want to bounce your ideas or problems off of a licensed professional person instead of constantly putting them on your family or friends. And some people might identify with that out there right now. Like,
I've personally seen a therapist.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Like, I used to put all my problems on my girlfriend or my mom and dad. And it's like, you know, I started to notice over time they would just say things like, well, it'll be okay. And that bothered me for two reasons. It was like, one, I could tell they love me, but, like, they don't know what to say. And they're kind of like, they're not getting
biased.
Annoyed, but like, what are they gonna say? And two, they're not professionals. They can't give me anything. Like, they can give me their own life advice, but that's not professional advice. Like, my therapist has been doing this for like 20 years, so I pay him for it, and I'm like, here's how I feel, and he's like, yeah, and that's why this is okay, and blah blah blah, and it's just somebody to talk to. It's the same way that we're talking right now. Like, to be honest with you, and therapy doesn't have to be someone you pay. Like, for some people, this is therapy right now.
Yeah.
Like, is this on YouTube?
Yeah, it's going to be on YouTube. Yeah.
So some people go to YouTube and they search out motivation. And that's actually a big part of how I got to reading all these books I read in meditation and stuff like that, was just searching out motivation, because, like, some days I couldn't get out of bed. Yeah. So this does
that happen? Does this still happen?
No, none of that happens anymore. No.
So now it's consistent.
Now it's consistent happiness. Like, I used to wake up in a default state of anxiety and depression. Like, I would wake up where I was literally anxious from the moment I stepped out of bed, and I couldn't figure out why. Like, from the moment I stepped out of bed, like in bed, I was like, whoop, like instant, eyes open, anxiety. And some people out there are probably like,
What was the first thought that comes to your head, like, when you wake up?
Anything. Everything.
Everything. And how did anxiety turn into?
Because I was in a mindset. I was in a fear mindset. Everything was going to go away. I was going to lose my YouTube career. And by the way,
you have that abundance thing over there?
100%, yeah. So for those that don't know, in my house, I have what I call an abundance center. And I've got $40,000 of fake money, but it's just the representation of money in like $10,000 increments stacked together. I've got a bunch of Bitcoins, which I'm invested in. They're like printed, not. Do
you want to show the audience? Would you mind showing it?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to bring the camera over there,
would you mind sharing it? Or
yeah, no, go for it. Yeah.
If you want, we can.
Are you gonna B-roll?
Yeah, we can do B-roll. Yeah, all right, for sure. Yeah. Anyways, you were saying.
So so everything you're seeing now, or everything you just saw, is my abundance center. I've got my Red October Yeezys over there, which is something that was an investment for me, that represented me, knowing that I have abundance, that I can buy extravagant things if I want to. Now, I don't ever spend money on special things, but those are something that...
Like those $80,000 sneakers.
No, God, no. Those are not $80,000.
He was showing me on
Yeah. No. I was showing him on an app that it's called StockX. I was showing him a pair of Nike Air Mags that they brought out. There was like 500 made in the whole world, and they were brought out. They were the same ones that were shown in the Back to the Future series. Yeah. But Nike actually made them. And there's two series. There was the non-light up ones, and there was the light up ones. The non-light up ones are about $9,000 a piece, or like for a pair.
A pair, yeah.
The light up ones range from $80,000 to the high hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, imagine actually owning like 100,000.
That's something I would never do.
I would never do that.
It's just a waste of money.
Ridiculous.
And even if I had millions of dollars,
what's the point?
Well, even if I had millions of dollars, like the way that the rich stay rich is they don't piss their money away.
Yeah.
Like
plus you could use that money for something better.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And if I had millions of dollars, I'd probably be like, I'm going to invest it in something that's going to make me more money, not a super pair of shoes that give me temporarily a dopamine hit, but that's not what those represent. Those represent for me, along with the Chinese bamboo tree that's there, all of that represents an area that, you know, just a little reminder that I am good. I live in abundance.
Speaking of temporary dopamine, do you think reason to your clinical depression was because you were chasing things that were temporary? And did that change now?
No.
No.
No, it was because, I mean, it was a lot of things. It was multiple.
Was that one of them at all?
No, it was that I didn't recognize what I had.
Huh.
It was that I had all the money that I could want to live comfortably off of. I was never a millionaire or anything, but I had more than enough to live off of. I had a nice home, even if it came down to things like friends and like a good girlfriend. Like I just didn't. It was never enough. I always wanted more. And that's why you see billionaires that are depressed.
Yeah.
Because even though they literally have all the money in the world, they're depressed because it's never enough. And they live in a scarcity mindset. And that's what people don't realize. And the biggest thing that I've realized is that your mindset is what determines your wealth. Not the amount of money in your bank account, not the number of Lambos and cars you have, despite what a lot of YouTubers nowadays would tell you that are, you know, which is, anyway, that's a whole nother story. But real wealth is recognizing what you have and being comfortable with it. Now, that being said, there's still something to be said for the hustle.
I was just about to tell you.
I'm never going to say don't work your ass off because you absolutely have to do that.
Because a huge thing they tell you is don't be comfortable. Like, you got to always be like wanting.
But here's the problem with that.
There's a balance.
Here's the problem nowadays is that all these people that mean well, like the Gary V's of the world, who's a friend of mine, full disclosure, you know, all these people that are constantly preaching hustle, hustle, hustle. I think they're saying that to the extreme because they realize that most people are the extreme opposite. And most people will probably fall somewhere in the middle. I do know some YouTubers that all they do is hustle. They've never had a real relationship. They sacrifice everything for the numbers, the money, their success. And they may not come out and say they're depressed, and they may not be depressed. But one day they're going to wake up and they're going to realize,
what the heck is going on?
I sacrificed everything and I'm 40 and I don't have anyone that cares about me, that really cares about me. And that to me is the scariest thing. And for me, I have found a nice middle ground. I was once uploading 7 days a week. I was wicked. I was once uploading 13 videos a week.
So why don't you give some context for people who don't know who you are, of what you do? And
oh yeah, did I even introduce myself?
No, that never really happened. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah. So I mean, obviously, my name is Matt Santoro. Matthew Santoro online. My handles are all at Matthew Santoro on everything. I make comedic fact videos on YouTube, top 10 lists. I have a series called 50 Amazing Facts. I actually started a side brand called Fact Maniac, which has nothing to do with me. I wanted to create another brand that does what I do, but posts online. I post 6 times a day on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Infographic cards.
You still do it?
Yeah. I've been posting 6
times
pictures a day.
Oh, wow.
For like 5 months now.
Wow.
Yeah, like hundreds and hundreds of photos, and it's doing really well. It's got like 34,000 followers as of. Actually, I think it hit 34,000 on Instagram today, so it's doing well.
I think I just saw it. I was looking through your Instagram right now.
Yeah, I promote it sometimes in my story. Yeah. But you know, that all comes down to the hustle. It's like I was trying to do so much at one point that I burned myself out, contributed to the depression. But now I'm at the point where I'm not daily vlogging, which I once was, 7 days a week. I don't have a gaming channel, which I was uploading 3 times a week. I don't upload 7 days a week on my main channel, which I used to do. That's like 15 videos a week, 16 videos a week.
You used to have 3 channels.
3 channels.
How were they all doing like well?
No. And that's the thing, is that I was overworking myself and I was being a jack of all trades, a master of none. And
I like that,
And now I upload 3 times a week. It's a number I'm comfortable with. I don't feel overworked. I've experimented with everything from 1 video a week to 2 to 7. Now I upload 3 times a week. I don't care what the algorithm says. I don't care if it's going to increase my viewership or if it's going to make me famous again. Because I don't look at myself as famous anymore. I think at one point I was. I think that I'm someone that's notable. I think that I'm somebody that has 16 million views a month. I think that's a tremendous amount of views.
Yeah, your channel has almost 1.2 billion in total, right?
Yeah, which is a tremendous amount.
We were just talking about it, like it's like a third of the world. That's
crazy, right?
That's insane.
It's crazy. Yeah. And I'm super grateful for it.
Yeah.
And there was once time I wasn't, but like I said, now I am beyond belief. And I found a balance. I found a balance where I'm still hustling, but I'm hustling smarter. And I think that's something that people need to know is everyone talks about working harder, working harder, working harder. It's not about working harder. It's about working smarter. Okay? And I want people to understand that. You can work your butt off, but if you're going in this direction and putting all your effort into this direction, but you're supposed to be going in this direction, it doesn't matter how hard you work in that direction.
You're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah, and if you don't let your brain breathe, you're not going to know what direction to go in, and you're not going to come up with the new ideas you need to evolve your business or your family life or whatever.
I mean, heck, this whole entire podcast right now came because I once was like sitting back and I'm like, I'm too center focused on one thing. I'm not allowing myself to explore different opportunities.
There you go.
And you never know, like one opportunity might be better than this one.
My podcast came about because I was uploading 7 days a week. I had no time to look at anything. It was hard enough that I started Fact Maniac. And now I've dropped down to 3 videos a week and I allowed my brain to breathe. And because I was shooting 7 days a week, I had a huge backlog of videos where I had pre-recorded them. So I actually, because I dropped down to 3 a week, I spread those out. So today was the first day I shot a video in a month. And I used the last month for mental health to find my place of happiness. And once I did that, I realized, I do like creating stuff. It's just that I'm overworking myself. And what do I really want to do? I think I want to do a podcast. And that was the birth of the podcast, much like, how you created yours. And, yours is the 4th episode, and it's going to be very big one day. But
Manifest it. I love it.
I kind of like right now that it's its own little
thing, huh?
Gem. Like I'm doing some really great interviews. Like I consider this a great little podcast we're doing right now. We're really getting some good stuff, and I hope you guys are getting value out of this. And by the way, if you are, make sure to hit the like button because it lets him know. For real, because it lets him know. Because like it's hard as an influencer to say like, hey, hit the like button. It's like just try to remember, if anything, not just this podcast, but anything you watch online or listen to, if anything ever brings you value, just know that if you leave 5 stars on iTunes or if you leave a like on the video, it's not so much for the person's ego, it actually helps them algorithmically. So just keep that in mind if you want to drop a little love on this video.
Definitely. And what's interesting, how you said you took a break. You see this happen on YouTube a lot where if somebody disappears, like a YouTuber, like haters, like, man, keyboard warriors, directly come like, where you been? You don't like us anymore. You don't care about us anymore. You don't do this. So like, you never really told me how you dealt with the hate with YouTube. Like it's something that like I'm kind of curious about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you put yourself out there in the public eye, you're going to get hate. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I remember from the first time I uploaded my first video, I was getting comments like, you bald freak, like, blah, blah, I don't even know, like, you're stupid. Like, I don't know. People would say all kinds of stupid things.
Looks good, though.
Thanks, man. Well, yeah, I'm super comfortable with the way I look. Like, I think I rock it. Like, I got the reverse hair thing going on.
We're at Chipotle right now. Him shades on, everything, looking good.
Hey, man, try to keep it fresh. But, that hurt me at first because I had a fragile ego. I had an ego that...
fragile ego, explain what that means.
It means that my validation came from without instead of within. And it was, again, and I know I'm saying a lot of things happened recently, but it very much was recently. Like on my 33rd birthday, I had a lot, which was 3 weeks ago. I had a huge breakthrough.
Happy birthday.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, happy belated birthday, man.
Thanks, bro. Yeah, and I had a huge breakthrough where I let go of a lot of anger from people that I perceived hurt me, whether it was, online hate or personal life. I let go of needing external validation. That was a huge one. That one stemmed all the way back from grade school. Like, I was never popular in grade school or high school. University, I wasn't popular, but I did go out a lot. I was very social. But when I got into the YouTube world, it's like there is no worse place to look for external validation than YouTube for 2 reasons. One, if you get it, your ego explodes uncontrollably. If you don't get it, and you tie yourself to the numbers in the same way, you will be super depressed because you're going to say, oh, people aren't watching. I'm not valuable. People don't care about me.
I'm not cool
They don't
enough.
like me. I'm not cool enough. Once you realize that, like, you're good, like, you are built perfectly the way you are. And I know that sounds very like, but it's true. You are perfect the way you are. That's not to say that you can't improve upon yourself. But your value will never change no matter how much money you get, no matter how many cars you get, no matter how hot your girlfriend or boyfriend is. None of that matters.
You'll always be the same. It's a key point that I like to deliver. Be the best you can at the moment given. Like when people ask how we're like a lot of people. I mean, I'm one of them. I used to always want to be a perfectionist. I mean, these videos, for example, or like anything. I'm sure I still go through it.
Yeah. Where
it's like I always try to have the best this, the best that, the best this, the best that. But it's interesting. I realized recently where it's like, at that given moment, whatever I thought was best, I did for myself, and that's the only way I can learn from that lesson given, whether it's negative or positive.
Yeah.
That if I overthink everything, and if I try to do stuff that just made perfect sense for me at that given moment, I would never learn my lesson. So it's an advice I give to everyone out there. It's whatever you think is best for yourself at that given moment, give it a shot, try it out. It's fine, even if you come off to be wrong or different, or that's how you learn, and that's how you grow, and that's how you mature.
Yeah. I want to submit something to everybody out there, which is a different way of thinking, which is that things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And that goes for good and bad things. Good things, obviously, easy to accept. Happen for me, awesome. Bad things happen for you in the sense that they make you a stronger person. Adversity builds character. Adversity builds a stronger you, a better you. Yeah. It's like scar tissue. Scar tissue is way tougher than normal skin. That's what you become. You become a stronger, version of yourself. And that's why I don't welcome negative things into my life, but when negative things happen, actually I can give you a perfect example. Last night I shot the previous podcast before yours was with my good friend Drew Baldwin, CEO of the Streaming Awards, Tube Filter, very successful guy, one of my favorite people in the world. If you haven't met him, I'll hook you up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But he is one of my favorite people, just a ball radiating positive energy. And we shot a podcast, and it was my first time shooting with someone else. And so I had no expertise in this. Right before I came over...
So you've never had a team, by the way, have you?
No, I keep it real simple.
Huh.
No.
It's interesting, because, do a lot of YouTubers, go solo? Because I would think that...
I'm not... Well, I'm talking about the podcast.
Yeah,
my YouTube channel, I have 2 writers and an editor. But,
okay.
But in terms of what happened yesterday, it is solo.
Okay.
And because of that, I made a mistake. And right before I came over, I didn't check to see if the mics that I bought would record. Well, as it turns out, you can't just plug 2 mics into a MacBook because Adobe Audition doesn't recognize both of them. And I was like, oh my God. So luckily I had an extra laptop, and it was a piece of junk Windows. No offense if you use Windows. But it was a piece of junk laptop. Not that Windows is junk, but the laptop was junk. And I had to record separately on that. And I had to download Audacity in order to record on that. And then... everything was good to go. Hit record on both, perfect. What I didn't realize was, because he was directly across from me, and we both had mics, there was terrible echo.
Okay. Yeah.
So I had to sit there for 3.5 to 4 hours and drop my waveform and keep his up while he was talking. While he stopped talking, drop his and keep mine up. It was a nightmare to edit.
Oh, God.
But as soon as it happened, I thought, oh my God. And on top of that, for some reason, his audio was desynced from mine, despite the fact that we clapped. For some reason, his was continuously desyncing throughout. So I had to find those parts. It was a nightmare.
What a struggle, man.
But as soon as I saw that the audio was not that great and it wasn't syncing and this and that, I smiled. And that's how I knew I came really far, because I looked at something that would have caused me terrible anxiety and I went, I'm going to learn something from this. Really. I genuinely looked at it like that. I knew I was going to learn how to edit real well, because I had to. I almost handed it off. Yeah, I almost handed the audio off to the MP3 files off to my friend who does editing for me, and I didn't do it because I wanted to figure it out myself, and I did. And I sat there. It took me 4 hours to edit a 1-hour podcast, but I figured out how to edit it, and that's what I learned from it. I learned a skill that I can carry forward for the next time that I edit a podcast.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. So we're almost done with time here. So it's
how long has it been?
It's been, 50 minutes now?
Cool.
Or so, give or take. Yeah, man, we're getting lost in our conversation.
Yeah.
Especially, the thing is that your podcast was deep.
Yeah.
It went crazy. We talked about aliens towards the end. I like this one though, because like we got into depression a bit,
Yeah.
and it's kind of a side of fame that people don't really, I guess, put too much attention to. I mean, it's out there.
Yeah, you're seeing it more and more though.
Yeah, you
and
are.
I like that.
You are.
And as much as I hate the fact that the Anthony Bourdains of the world and the Kate Spades and the Robin Williams and these people are going through such a bad time that they end up killing themselves. The silver lining, if you will, to that is that it's creating a big conversation, because something that used to be hidden and something that you thought was only for the normal Joe, you start to see is happening to famous, wealthy people. And it turns out they've had it all along, and we just never really knew it.
You just never see it. You never perceive it.
Yeah, and mental health is becoming a really mainstream thing, and that's why, like, I love the fact that talking about being up or down or whatever emotions you're having, specifically down, whether it's depression or whatever, is becoming a normal part of conversation. Like, literally, I will have a conversation with someone where, like, you'll, like, for example, like, say we've known each other for a while, you'll walk through the door, I'll be like, hey, man, what's up? And I'll be like, man, you know what? I'm just having a really bad mental health day. Like, I feel really depressed. Whereas before I'd be like, yeah, I know I'm not bad. You know,
Yeah,
like that's
you
how
don't
most
give-
people
you
would
don't give
answer.
information on
Yeah, but I'm just be open about it. Be like, my mental health today isn't that good.
You're conscious of
Talk
yourself.
about it. You would say, oh, I'm not feeling good. I have a cough. Talk about your mental health that way. It's not some weird like taboo thing. Like your brain. I want to say one thing that might reframe the whole mental thing for some people. If you broke your arm, you would put a cast on it. Why is your brain any different? Why is it that when you're feeling depressed or you're constantly down, that you don't immediately think, oh, I got to fix this. Oh, I got to go see a therapist. Oh, I got to try medication. Oh, I got to meditate, whatever. Why is it that you just say, I don't want to talk about it? Why? Would you let your arm hang there broken?
Do you think because
no,
society...
you go to the hospital.
Do you think that's because society doesn't allow you to talk about
Not
it?
anymore. No, not anymore. I like to think that we're at the point now where mental health is a mainstream discussion.
Okay.
But I think that there are some people that in their own mind, they're ashamed of it.
What about traditions, culture, stuff like that? Doesn't that... Like, I mean, coming from a Middle Eastern family, they expect you to be the best.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So it's like when you're anything else, you're like, well, wait. If I can't even admit it to my own parents, how am I going to do that outside?
Yeah, my grandparents are from Italy, my Nonna and Nona. And my understanding from what I've heard is in the old country, you don't talk about that stuff. Like, you don't like, oh, he's depressed. Oh, no. You don't talk about that because it'll bring shame to the family. It's embarrassing. We don't want people to think something's wrong with us. We just don't talk about that. That's not the case anymore. Everybody talks about everything, and I think that the old way of thinking is to be honest with you, dying out with the old generations. Mm-hmm. And as time goes on, it's going to be a nice conversation.
Yeah. So let's finalize it with one question I got for you. Since you asked me a question, it's not about aliens, but what's your opinion on positive attitude on a daily level? So like I was reading a book.
Yeah.
And it talks about having, like what I said about my OD being regretful, changing the language. So I know you brought it up like a little bit. So why don't you go more in depth about that?
Oh man, I mean, I think it goes without saying. It's just like, it's everything.
Yeah.
It's absolutely everything. Attitude is what determines the direction of your life. If you have an attitude of scarcity, nothing's ever enough, I'm never going to find that person, I'm never going to break this addiction, I'm never going to lose the weight, then you won't.
Yeah.
But if you believe that one day you will, you will. And there's a great quote that says, I think it was Henry Ford that said, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right.
I've heard that before, yeah.
And that's what life is. And it's all, mindset is everything. And for anyone out there that isn't happy with something in your life, my advice to you would be to really audit your life, really take a hard look at your life and be honest with yourself. And it's going to be painful. You're going to have to, like an onion, you're going to have to peel back some layers. Ooh, it's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to cry, just like an onion. But at the center of it, you're going to see what's wrong. Whether it's you're in a relationship you don't want to be in anymore. That was my situation. I was with someone that I loved, and I still love to this day, but we just became really excellent roommates. And some of you out there might be going, whoa.
Wow.
Like you're in a situation right now where you're just bunking up with someone. You're not really too happy. Whether it's your job, that you're just not happy, but I can't leave, I have bills. Yes, you can. You can. And it's going to be scary, and it's going to be terrifying, and you're not going to know where you're going to get your next paycheck from. But you got to follow your passion. You got to go find that right person. You got to step out of bed in the morning and go for a 5-minute walk, or a 1-minute walk, or a 30-second jog, whatever you can do to start losing the weight. And you start building up these things, and you start changing your attitude. And that's how you get to a better life. And things that can help with that is mindfulness. Meditate. Calm your mind. Allow the voices to go down and disappear. Read. Exercise. Create something. Those are the 4 pillars of my life that I do every day that improve my mental health dramatically and maintain it. And your brain is like a car, by the way. Your whole body's like a car. In the same way that if you were sick, you would get a tune-up, your brain's the same way. So that would be my only advice to people.
Beautiful. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, man. Anything you'd like to plug in on the podcast?
I mean, I would just be very grateful if everyone went and checked out my YouTube channel. Just search Matthew Santoro. I've got 670 videos on there, all family-friendly, clean stuff. It'll make you laugh. There's some comedy on there. I would very be grateful if you checked out my podcast, because it's a brand new thing. It's the Matthew Santoro podcast. My man here is going to be on it, so I think you're going to like that.
Great content,
you're going to like that one. Yeah. It's really good.
Dude, I was listening to one of your episodes, and it's like some good stuff.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's much like this conversation. So if you enjoyed this and you got value out of it, I think you're going to enjoy that. And the third thing is Fact Maniac, which is on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook.
I'll check that out after this. Yeah,
and it's worth following. Once in a while, you'll scroll through and you'll learn an amazing fact that you didn't know before.
Aha moments.
Yeah, and that's it. I'd be super grateful if you guys did that. I'd be very grateful.
Sweet, my man. Thank you so much
Thanks,
again.
brother.
Yeah, it was
Of course,
nice. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Heck yeah, man.
Oh, hey. You guys are still here? Well, you know what? I'm glad you made it this far, and thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Owl Empire podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed the value that was delivered by Matthew Santoro. Definitely some great things and great points, and I hope you guys took some notes. And if you did, please remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more amazing content like this. Let us know down below in the comments who you'd like for us to get on the show, if any specific guests or any specific topics you'd like for us to talk about. I would be happy to deliver as much value as possible for you guys. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching this episode, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Take care.